All right, this video is going to cover notes for section 6.5, which deals with complex fractions. So these fractions are complex because you'll notice you have a bunch of division problems and you have fractions in the numerator and the denominator. What we're going to do to start solving this first problem, 1 plus 4 49ths divided by 1 minus 2 sevenths, is we're going to combine the two numbers in the numerator and the denominator. Now, this 1 can be written as fractions by putting the 1 over 1. Now, in order for me to add 1 over 1 plus 4 49ths, I have to have common denominator. So I need this denominator with this fraction on the left side, I need it to also be 49. In order to make the 1 a 49, I have to multiply the denominator times 49. And whatever you multiply in the denominator, you must also multiply in the numerator. So we also have to multiply 49 times 1 in the numerator. So this fraction will become 1 times 49, or 49, divided by 49 times 1 again, which will be 49. All right, so it's no longer 1 over 1, it's now 49 over 49. Now 49 over 49 plus 4 over 49, we want to keep the denominator the same, and we're going to add those terms in the numerator. So 49 plus 4, you'll get 53 in the numerator. Now that's the top fraction. Let's look at the bottom fraction. Notice we have 1 over 1 again. We need to get the common denominator of 7. So we have to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 7. All right, to do that, we're multiplying. So times 7 in the denominator times 7 in the numerator. That top fraction will become 7 over 7. Now we will combine this 7 over 7 minus 2 sevenths. So keep your denominator of 7, and 7 minus 2 in the numerator leaves 5 sevenths. Now what we learned about dividing fractions is when you divide by a fraction, 5 sevenths is a fraction, that is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. So the steps we learned using this acronym is that we keep the top fraction the same. So our top fraction will remain 53 divided by 49. We will change our operation from division to multiplication, and then we're going to flip the bottom fraction. So that numerator moves to the denominator, and the denominator moves to the numerator. It becomes 7/5. Now we're going to multiply across. If we can't cross cancel, in this case we can cross cancel. 7 and 49 we can cancel by dividing both terms by 7. 7 divided by 7 will give us 1 here, and 49 divided by 7 will give us 7 in the denominator. Now we'll multiply across to get our answer. 51 times 1, or 53 times 1 is 53. 7 times 5 in the denominator will get 35. So this is our answer, 53 divided by 35. Now for problem number 2, we have some similar steps. We need to add these fractions in the numerator, subtract the fractions in the denominator. Now before we can add this 4/3, we need to get our common denominator between 3 and 6. So we need this 3 to be a 6. What do we have to multiply 3 by to get 6? We have to multiply times 2, which means we also have to multiply by 2 in the numerator. 4 times 2 will make that top fraction, the numerator, 8. Now we can add here 8, 6. It's no longer 4/3. So 8, 6 plus 5, 6. You will keep your denominator of 6. And then we will add in the numerator 8 plus the 5. That'll give us 13 in the numerator. Now the next problem, in the denominator we notice 1/2 minus 3/4. We have different denominators here. So we need to get this denominator of the fraction on the left side, we need to change it to a 4. We have to multiply times 2 and times 2 in the numerator as well to make that happen. 1 times 2 in the numerator will make that top number, the numerator, 2. So we have now 2/4 minus 3/4. So keep your denominator of 4, and we want to subtract in the numerator. 2 minus 3, that gives us -1. Now, in working with our two fractions, remember, we keep the first fraction the same. We change our operation to multiplication, and we flip this bottom fraction. So the numerator moves to the denominator, and the denominator moves to the numerator. So we're keeping that first fraction the same, 13/6. We're changing our operation from division to multiplication, and when we flip -1/4, we'll get -4/1. Now we'll look to see if we can cross cancel here. 2 can be divided into 4 and 6. So we're going to divide both of those terms by 2 to simplify. So 6 divided by 2 will make that a 3 in the denominator. 4 divided by 2 will make this a 2 in the numerator. Now we would just multiply across. 13 times -2 in the numerator, that gives us -26. 3 times 1 in the denominator gives you 3. So our answer, -26/3. Okay, now the next problem, we have our fractions again. We see t divided by x squared and t squared divided by x. So we're going to apply our steps, keep, change, flip. We want to keep this first fraction the same, that numerator. So it will remain t over x squared. We're changing our operation from division to multiplication, and then we want to flip the bottom fraction. So that numerator moves to the denominator, and the denominator moves to the numerator. So that fraction will become x over t squared. Now let's look and see if we can cross cancel. The x and x squared, we can divide both of those terms by x. And when we divide x by x, we get 1 in the numerator of the fraction on the right. When we divide x squared by x, we get 1x. The same thing with the t terms. We can divide t by t. That'll give us 1 in the numerator of the fraction on the left side. And then t squared divided by t will give us t in the denominator of the fraction on the right. Now we'll multiply across. Numerator times numerator, top times top, we'll get 1. And then the denominator x times t will get tx. We're just writing them in alphabetical order. So if you wrote that as xt as opposed to tx, it's the same. So 1 over tx or xt. Now the third example, we have our same steps that we're going to apply. We want to keep our numerator the same, change our operation from division to multiplication, and then we're going to flip that bottom fraction. So keeping the first fraction the same, that top fraction, x plus 2 divided by 5. We're changing our operation from division to multiplication, and then we're flipping that bottom fraction. So we're left with x divided by x minus 9. Now to simplify this, we would just multiply across. We're going to multiply across because we can't cross cancel. There aren't any terms to cancel out. So in the numerators, we have x times that factor of x plus 2, I'll place in parentheses, divided by 5 times the factor x minus 9 in parentheses. And this is our answer. Now the next example, we have 1 divided by c minus 6 and 6 divided by c squared minus 36. Now we are going to apply our steps. We're going to keep, change, and flip the bottom fraction. But before we flip that bottom fraction, I want us to consider, look, we have a difference of perfect squares. So this c squared minus 36, we can factor this as c plus 6 and c minus 6. All right, so when we flip our bottom fraction, we're going to just use these factors instead of c squared minus 36. So we're keeping that top fraction the same. It'll remain 1 divided by c minus 6. We're changing our operation from division to multiplication, and then we're flipping this bottom fraction. So in the numerator, we have c plus 6 and c minus 6, those two factors. And in the denominator, we have 6. Now look and see what we can cross cancel. The c minus 6 and c minus 6 can be canceled. So we're left in the numerator with 1 times c plus 6. So that just gives us that factor of c plus 6 in the numerator. In the denominator, we have 6. So this is our answer. All right, the next problem we see, we're simplifying again. 1 over w plus 8 over w squared. We need to combine these terms, but before we can do that, before we can add these two fractions, we have to have common denominators. We have w to the second power in this fraction on the right side and w to the first power, right, in the fraction on the left. To make this fraction on the left have the same denominator, we need to multiply times w in the numerator and the denominator. So that'll give us w in the numerator. In the denominator, we have our common w squared. So it's no longer 1 over w, it's w over w squared. Now, when I simplify that fraction, w over w squared plus 8 over w squared, we keep the denominator of w squared, and in the numerator, we have w plus 8. Divided by. Now we need to get common denominators with these bottom fractions as well. So we need to multiply the numerator and the denominator of the fraction on the left by w. So w times w in the denominator gives us w squared, and 3 times w in the numerator gives us 3w. Now we can combine those fractions. Keep your denominator the same. So w squared remains in the denominator. And the numerator, 3w minus 4. We want to write that factor. Now, we want to apply our steps here. When we're working with fractions and we're dividing by a fraction, remember that's the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So we'll keep the first fraction the same, w plus 8 divided by w squared. We're changing our operation from division to multiplication, and we're going to flip the bottom fraction. The w squared is in the numerator divided by that factor of 3w minus 4. I'm going to put these factors in parentheses so we aren't tempted to try to cancel the letters out or the numbers by themselves. However, we notice here these w squareds can be canceled, and what we're left with in the numerator is w plus 8. That factor we'll place in parentheses, and in the denominator, 3w minus 4. This is our answer. The next example, we see 3 divided by ab squared minus 7 divided by a squared times b. So in order for us to get common denominator, we actually have to do a little bit of work to both fractions this time. In the denominator of the fraction on the left, we have a to the first power. In the second fraction, we have a to the second power. So we need to multiply the fraction on the left times a so that we'll have the same powers of a. We have b to the second power in the fraction on the left, but b by itself with just one power on the right. So we need to multiply this term times b in order to make our b terms equivalent. Now remember, we multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same terms. Here on the left, we'll now have a squared b squared in the denominator. And 3 times a in the numerator will leave us with 3a. Okay, so we multiply by 3. Multiply 3 times a to get 3a. Minus, here, when we multiply in the numerator, we get 7b. And in the denominator, a squared times b squared. So a squared b squared. We have our common denominator here, so we will keep that denominator. Now these fractions have been adjusted. So we have 3a minus 7b, that factor in the numerator, 3a minus 7b. In the denominator, we're going to keep the same, a squared b squared. Now, in the denominator here of the fractions, we need to get common. Again, we need to make them the same. We have a squared b squared in the fraction on the left, and we just have a to the first, b to the first in the fraction on the right. So we need to multiply a b times the numerator and the denominator. Now, our a b times a b will leave us with a squared b squared in the denominator. Now, in the numerator, we have 3 times ab. So we'll write that as 3ab. Now, here we are combining these terms to write our new denominator. So we have 4 over a squared b squared plus 3ab over a squared b squared. So keep the denominator of a squared b squared. And in the numerator, 4 plus 3ab. 3ab. All right, now remember our steps for when we're dividing by a fraction. We keep the first fraction the same. So our first fraction will remain, that numerator will remain 3a minus 7b. And I'm going to place that factor in parentheses, divided by a squared b squared. We're changing our operation from division to multiplication. So we're changing our operation from division to multiplication. And then we're going to flip the second fraction. So the fraction that's in the denominator, we want to move the terms in the numerator to the denominator. And then the terms in the denominator, we want to move those to the numerator. So when we do that, we have a squared b squared in the numerator. And then 4 plus 3ab moves to the denominator. Now let's see where we can cross cancel. These a squared b squared, we can cancel. Those are diagonal to each other. And the remaining terms, 3a minus 7b in our numerator. And I'm going to place that factor in parentheses, divided by 4 plus 3ab. This is our answer. All right, the next example, notice we have different denominators again, z plus 4, z minus 4. So in order to get a common denominator, we need to have both of these factors represented. So this z plus 4 we see is in the denominator of the fraction on the left. We have z minus 4 in the denominator of the fraction on the right. We need to add that missing factor, the z minus 4, we need to add that factor to the fraction on the left side. So we need to multiply the numerator and the denominator by z minus 4. Now when we do that, we have a common denominator of z plus 4 times z minus 4. So z minus 4. In the numerator, we have 8 times that factor of z minus 4. Now, with our fraction on the right side, we had that factor, remember, of z minus 4. We needed to add the factor of z plus 4. We have to multiply the numerator and the denominator by that factor of z plus 4. All right, so now we want to combine our denominators. Will stay the same, but we want to combine in the numerators by adding. So this would leave us with z plus 4 and z minus 4 in the denominator. We'll keep that same denominator. And in the numerator, we have 8z minus 4, so 8 times z minus 4, plus 3 times z plus 4. 3 times z plus 4 in the numerator. Now we're dividing this term by the denominators, which we need to get common again, so we have to multiply the z minus 4 times that factor of z plus 4. Remember, you're going to multiply in the numerator and in the denominator z plus 4. And the fraction on the right side, we need to multiply the numerator and the denominator by that missing factor z minus 4. Now, when we do that, we have our common denominator of z plus 4 times z minus 4. And in the numerator, we have 4 times z plus 4 from the fraction on the left, minus 1 times z minus 4 from the fraction on the right. All right, now we have a lot of terms here, but remember our basic steps. We want to keep this top fraction the same. Now, as we keep that top fraction the same, we're going to go ahead and distribute in the numerator. So 8 times z would leave us with 8z minus 8 times 4. That'll leave us with minus 32. And then 3 times z would give us 3z. It's positive, so plus 3z. And then 3 times the 4. This was 3z, but 3 times 4 will give us plus 12. Divided by that common denominator, which are factors z plus 4 and z minus 4. We're changing our operation from division to multiplication, and then we're going to flip that bottom fraction. So those terms in the numerator will move to the denominator. Those terms in the denominator are going to move to the numerator. So the z plus 4 and the factor z minus 4 are going to be moved to the numerator. In the denominator, let's go ahead and distribute these terms. So 4 times z would leave us with 4z plus 4 times 4, which would leave us with plus 16. And then minus 1 times z, that's minus z, minus times minus 4, that'll be positive 4. Now we see where we can cross cancel here. You see how you have the z plus 4 and z minus 4 those two terms can be canceled that are diagonal to each other. Now, looking at our terms that are left, we have 8 z's here in the numerator. We have 4 z's, we have 3 z's, and minus z. So we have quite a few like terms that are side by side we can combine. This is 8z plus the 3z. That would give us 11 z's right here, 11z. Here we have minus 32 and plus 12. That would give us minus 20. So these are the terms that we're left with in the numerator. 11z minus 20 when we combine our like terms. In the denominator here, when we combine like terms, 4z minus 1z, that gives us 3z's. And then 16 plus 4, that gives us plus 20. So these are the factors that are left in the denominator. And that would be our answer. So in the numerator, we're left with 11z minus 20 divided by 3z plus 20. And that's the last example from the 6.5 notes. So stop here.